Hello friends, it's Chris from IELTS Daily. It is a pleasure to be with you today because I am back with another session which is a live writing session, and we're going to be looking at the essay. I know that many of you find the essay really difficult. I promise I haven't prepared for this question. I have seen the question just now, and we're going to be looking at a question about transport to and from school. You will see that in the corner of this video there is a timer. We're going to try and write this essay in 40 minutes or less so that we can kind of replicate and copy what would happen in the real exam. I'll talk to you about the way that I am planning and the things that I am thinking while I'm writing. Sometimes I'll be quiet because it's quite difficult to write and speak at the same time. But I want you to just follow this essay, and right at the end of the essay I will post the answer on the IELTS Daily website, which you can find at IELTS-daily.com. IELTS-daily.com. Head over there and you can download this sample as a PDF. I hope you'll find that useful. Great, let's start the stopwatch in the corner of the screen. You will see that beginning now, and we will begin by looking at the question. The question says, some parents believe that schools and the government should be responsible for transporting children to and from school. Others think that it is the parents' responsibility. Discuss both views and give your own opinion. Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. Write at least 250 words. This is a two-sided essay, and in order for you to score full band 9, you would need to address both sides of the argument, because it says discuss both views, and you would need to give your own opinion somewhere throughout the essay. You would need both sides to be considered a band 9. It does say give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples, so it is okay for you to include I and me, using your own personal experience. So the two sides of this debate are schools and the government should be responsible, and that word there, should, is super important. Others think that it is the parents' responsibility. So there are two sides of the debate. Usually when I'm doing an essay like this, I would often include like a table so that we can have two sides of the debate, where we say it is the school and the government, and you would need to address both of those, and the parents' responsibility. Which one do you think? Maybe you could add a row below which would talk about your opinion. What's your position? And we use that word position to give your opinion and what your thoughts are. So there are two sides of that debate. I would say it's better to start thinking about planning at the beginning. Really, really important that we plan at the beginning and think about the reasons and what are the two sides of that debate before you even start writing, before you include anything. And I'll talk about the organisation of your ideas very shortly. Let's think about those two positions. Well, some people say that the school and the government should be responsible. Why? Maybe one, because there are some environmental impacts. So that it would be positive on the environment, because if they used kind of school buses, this is better for the environment, because there are, and we'll put some ideas here, fewer cars on the road. I think we all agree, yeah, that if the school or the government organised all of those children to be moved to and from their homes, the environmental impact would be positive. So we could say something like a positive environmental impact. And we would explain what we mean. It's always important to explain what we mean. Why is it the parents' responsibility? Well, theoretically, this money will probably be coming from taxes. If we start paying for children to come to school by public transport, who is going to pay for this? And that would be, who would pay for that? And it would likely come from taxes. So the question would be, Is it fair to use taxpayer money, ? Is it fair to use taxpayer money to move children even though they're not your children? So let's imagine that somebody does not have a child, but they still pay taxes. Is it fair that those taxes are used to pay for other children? And that's a question that we could raise in the essay. Quite important that we would think about the other side. Is there anything else why we would think that school or government should organise transport? Well, it could be more beneficial for the school because children would arrive on time, simply because they're not depending on parents to transport them. So it's better for punctuality, and there's a word there, punctuality. Punctuality is a good word to be on time. It is cheaper. Let's talk about the cost benefit for the family. It's cheaper for the family because the family doesn't need to pay to transport the children by car or using their own funds if the government or the school is paying for that. Again, going back to the other side of the debate, who is going to pay for this? Who is going to be wearing the cost, as we would say? Some people to wear the cost, and that's a phrase that you might want to use. Who would wear the cost of this? And this is maybe a financial term. We could also use the who would bear the brunt. That's a good the brunt of something. Who would bear the brunt of the costs? Yeah, that's an idiomatic phrase that you may want to use while you are while you're writing. So bear the brunt of, which means take the or have the impact of. What else, or what other reasons do you think that schools or governments should organise, be responsible for? Is it safer? Is it safer for children to be moved around because the government could use, given that there are fewer cars on the road, is it safer for them to be on public buses and being moved around? That'd be a question mark that you could possibly talk about in your essay. And is there anything else that could be a reason why it's the parents' responsibility? Well, ultimately, the parents chose to have the children, so why should other people be responsible for this? So I'm saying that, let's say we'll give you person A decides to have 3 children, person B decides to have no children, and the question would be, why should person B be responsible in terms of the government and schools? Why should they be responsible for the person A's children? And that could be something that you talk about in your essay. Remember that you do have to look at both sides of the debate, even if that's not your position. Just because it's not your position doesn't mean that you can ignore it, because remember, in the test it says discuss both views. So you have to discuss the views of some parents and other people. It's really important that you are able to look at both sides of the debate. Now, remember that when you're writing, it's critical that you have to present, extend, and support your ideas. So if you present an idea that it's a positive environmental impact, you have to extend and support it. What does that actually mean? And I've given you an example here that, if there are more school buses on the road, it means there are fewer cars on the road, so there are fewer emissions, etc., etc. So you do have to explain what you mean. And when we use this kind of tabular, in a table format, it allows you to think about your ideas in advance. I do always recommend when you are writing an essay, it's always better to spend some time planning. Now, as I said at the beginning, it's really hard to talk and to write at the same time. So if I make any spelling mistakes, I will do my best, but it does take a little bit of extra brain power for me to check my answers and talk at the same time. So what would be my opinion? My opinion is actually, my personal opinion is that schools and governments, I would say, should not be responsible for, it shouldn't be their responsibility, but they should help and make parents and children's lives as easy and safe as possible within the kind of budget, because you have to think about the budget and who is paying for all this transport, because it's obviously going to come to the taxpayer to do that. So I'm going to take some sort of kind of, it's not the middle approach, it's not the middle opinion, but it is looking kind of at both sides. I don't think they should be only responsible for. Maybe it's this idea that it has to be a joint effort or collaboration. Yeah. So maybe the government could provide the buses and parents pay for the tickets on the buses. So they could help by providing more transport, and the parents could self-fund this. They could use some of their own money to pay for the ticket. So I think my own personal opinion is it has to be a kind of a joint effort or a collaboration between the schools, the government, and parents. All right. So my usual way of organizing these paragraphs would be my introduction, my body paragraph 1, which would be side 1, my body paragraph 2, which would be the opposing side. We may have the opposing side as body paragraph 1, it doesn't really matter in this case. Body paragraph 3, I'm going to give my view. You don't have to do it like this. You could include your own position within body paragraph 1 or body paragraph 2. It's completely okay for you to do that, but today I'm going to include it as my own separate paragraph. And then we're going to conclude, which is going to be a short and simple summary of all the points that we made, basically repeating, but not word for word, repeating the idea of the introduction. Should be something like this. Okay. What I might do today is do something a little bit different. I might actually write my body paragraphs first. Remember that if you're doing the computer delivered test, it's really easy for you to mix your kind of logic up, in the sense that you could write your body paragraph first and it's not going to affect your overall writing ability. Whereas if you're doing this on paper, it's really hard to do your body paragraph first because you're using a pencil and you have to rub everything out. So I'm going to start with my body paragraph 1. I'm going to leave my introduction for the end. So we're going to say body paragraph 1 is this side. Okay? If I go quiet, it's just because I'm trying to write. I won't be able to talk and write at the same time. Let's have a go. On one side of the debate are those people who argue that schools and the government should organise school transport. This is a complex sentence because we've used the word who. Remember, you have to use some subordination in your writing. They claim, so we're talking about they are those people, and this is called referencing and substitution. You do need to use some sort of referencing and substitution in your writing. So you wouldn't say those people, we're saying they. They claim that this will have a positive impact on the environment since there would be fewer private car journeys. Let's see what I've said here. So we're using an if sentence, which is a complex sentence. We're at 16 minutes. If schools and the governments, it should be the government, we could even say if local authorities, which is like the local government and schools, that's a good collective noun there. So we've got local authorities are things like schools and governments. We would say if local authorities organised buses to take children to and from school, it would mean that parents did not have to. This type of system could also be very beneficial because it could improve overall child safety as well. Because and we'll link this together, as fewer individual cars on the road would limit the number of road traffic accidents. So we are arguing 2 points in the same paragraph, but we've linked them together and we've said it's an environmental thing and it's also better for safety as well. What we should be doing is thinking about how to keep one paragraph on one topic. And the topic would be should organise school transport. We've given a clear topic sentence here which outlines and gives the reader an idea of what the topic of this paragraph is. So that should be good enough for now. We're doing the computer delivered test, which means we can move forward with our next paragraph. what we're saying here is we're preparing the other side of the debate, which is that the counter argument. Can you see there? And I'm just saying the counter argument would be that parents should each child's parents should be responsible. We can do parents. So the counter argument would be that each child's parents should be responsible for school transport. Proponents of this position, and again we're using this, we're using referencing and substitution. Proponents of this position argue that other members of society should not be responsible, and I've got the word be responsible, and I've got be responsible here. Remember, it's not great if we're using the same language all the time, so I might come back, I might highlight this, I might put it in yellow, and I might come back to this to think of another way to say it, but I'm not worried about it yet. Should not be responsible for other people's children. Organising a network of buses and public transport to and from schools would be a large burden for the public purse. We can say the public purse is basically the taxpayer system. If you don't know this language, we could just use that word, a large burden for the public taxpayer system. So organising a network of buses and public transport to and from schools would be a large burden for the public taxpayer system. So the opponents to this system would claim that each parent should contribute to these costs. So I'm just summarising the position here. It's a fairly short position, but I think it summarises the argument. I'm just going to read it again. The counter-argument would be that each child's parents should be responsible for school transport. Proponents of this position argue that other members of society should not be responsible for other people's children. So I've repeated the word other as well. I'm just going to go back and highlight that in yellow. Organising a network of buses and public transport to and from schools would be a large burden for the public taxpayer system. So the opponents to this system, again we've got the word system, I'm going to come and highlight that in yellow. We've got system and system. Opponents to this system would claim that each parent should contribute to the associated costs. Now I'm going to come down and talk about my view. My view is that the benefits to the school, child, and the environment. So my view is that the benefits to the school, child, and the environment would mean that a public school transport system is an excellent idea. I do not believe that it should be only the responsibility of the local schools and government and the government, my typing is terrible today, and the government to organise and pay for this. An ideal approach would be for the local authority to set up this and partially fund the system, with the remaining money being paid for, being subsidized by the parents. This way, fewer cars on the road would also benefit people without children. Let's see if this makes sense. I'm going to go back and read it again. My view, and remember that in the IELTS test you can use I and my because it asks for your opinion. Let's have a look at the paragraph again. My view is that the benefits to the school, the child, and remember that we're going to use parallelism, the school, the child, and the environment, would mean that a public school transport system is an excellent idea. I do not believe, however, and I'm going to put however in commas here, which shows contrast. Notice a recent post that I made on Instagram which explained how to use however. I do not believe, however, that it should only be, and that's a small mistake, only be the responsibility of the local schools and the government to organise and pay for this. An ideal approach would be for the local. An ideal approach would be for the local authority to set up and partially fund the system, with the remaining money being subsidised by the parents. This way, fewer cars on the road would also benefit people without children. And that was my position in the second paragraph about who's going to pay for it and who should be responsible for this. So I've kind of tried to find a middle ground. So the body paragraphs have been written before I've written my introduction and conclusion, and by doing this it allows me to have a really clear position when I do write my introduction. We're at 26 minutes at the moment, so I've got about 14 minutes left. What I want to do now is write my introduction and write my conclusion, and then fix the parts in yellow, and then have another read of my essay. Who should pay for children to get to and from school? So notice here that I'm starting with a rhetorical question. And this is a device that you may or may not want to use in your essay. So I've basically just summarized this at the top, and I'm just writing a rhetorical question. Who should pay for children to get to and from school? Should it be the government and local education authority, or should it be the parents? I believe that a good system would be a collaboration between all three parties, with every group providing some input. So the idea is that every party, the schools, the government, and the education authority, should be responsible. Who should pay for children to get to and from school? Should it be the government and local education authority, or the children's parents? I believe that a good system would be a collaboration between all three parties, with every group providing some input. So I was saying that the responsibility should be all three. It shouldn't just be the government, it shouldn't just be the school, and it shouldn't just be the parent. And I'm going to write my conclusion now. And that should be my position at the top. My position at the top should be fairly clear. And I'm just going to try and repeat that in a slightly different way in my conclusion. In conclusion, the task of moving children from home to school is complex and expensive. Therefore, I believe that the responsibility should lie. We say responsibility lies with, and I'll just write that at the bottom. So responsibility lies with somebody. So the responsibility should lie with both parents and local education authorities. In doing so, the overall impact to children and the environment would be positive. Let's see if that summarizes what we wrote. In conclusion, the task of moving children from home to school is complex and expensive. Therefore, I believe that the responsibility should lie with both parents and local education authorities. In doing so, the overall impact to children and the environment would be extremely positive. Extremely positive. So there is my overall essay. What I want to do now is go forward and look at some of the language that I've used. Have I used good enough language? Are there complex sentences? Have I organised my ideas well? Do I have topic sentences in my paragraphs? Let's look at the yellow parts first of all, because we've got 9 minutes left. The counter argument would be that each child's parents should be responsible for school transport. Proponents, or people who argue for this position, proponents of this position argue that other members of society should not be penalised. Should not be penalised for other people's, I just made a mistake there. Should not be penalised for the children of others. Let's do that one. Should not be penalised for children of others. Good. Organising a network of buses and public transport to and from schools would be a large burden for the public taxpayer system. So the opponents to this solution, and we've got this solution and this system, so we're just not repeating the word system. So opponents to this system would claim that each parent should contribute to the associated costs. Let's read the whole essay again and see if there are any spelling mistakes, and I hope there are none, but if I do find some, please, or if you find some, please tell me. Let's go. Who should pay for children to get to and from school? Should it be the government and local education authority? And should it be the government and the local education authority? Or the children's parents? I believe that a good system would be a collaboration between all three parties, with every group providing some input, some financial input. On one side of the debate are those people who argue that schools and the government should organise school transport. They claim that this will have a positive impact on the environment, since there would be fewer private car journeys. If local authorities organised buses to take children to and from school, it would mean that parents did not have to. This type of system could also be very beneficial because it could improve overall child safety as well. Could improve. So we've also got also here. Notice how I've got also. I probably don't need as well. I'm going to remove as well. Could also be very beneficial because it could improve overall child safety, as or because fewer individual cars on the road would limit the number of road traffic accidents. The counter argument would be that each child's parents should be responsible for school transport. Proponents of this position argue that other members of society should not be penalised for the children of others, should not be financially penalised for the children of others. Organising a network of buses and public transport let's just remove to and from school. Organising a network of buses and public transport, of school buses. Organising a network of school buses and public transport would be a large burden for the public taxpayer system. So the opponents to this solution would claim that each parent should contribute to the associated costs. We've got about 5 minutes left. My view is that the benefits to the school, the child and the environment would mean that a public school transport system is an excellent idea. I do not believe, however, that it should only be the responsibility of the local schools and the government to organise and pay for this. An ideal approach would be for the local authority to set up and partially fund the system, with the remaining money being subsidised by the parents. This way, fewer cars on the road would also benefit people without children. In conclusion, the task of moving children from home to school is complex and expensive. Therefore, I believe that the responsibility should lie with both parents and local education authorities. In doing so, the overall impact to children and the environment would be extremely positive. So, we've got 4 minutes left if we want to have a look. I don't think there are any spelling mistakes. You'll probably find some after this. Have I used enough language which would be less common? We've got quite a few collocations, which would be words like financial input, local authorities, local education authorities. We've got phrasal verbs to lie with. Do we have any more phrasal verbs? Financially penalised. Proponents of this position. I think there's enough there. I think the language is suitable. Each one of my paragraphs has a topic sentence. This topic sentence gives an idea of this paragraph. This topic sentence gives an idea of this paragraph. And this paragraph is all about my position. My introduction uses a rhetorical question or two rhetorical questions. It has my position very clearly at the top. It has my position throughout the essay, and my position is repeated at the end. My conclusion summarizes my overall position, and so therefore I am pretty happy with this. And I sense that this would be definitely above a band 8 for writing. I don't have any concerns that it would be less than a band 8. So we did that in 37 minutes. Please don't forget, I'm going to post this essay, this sample essay. You can download it as a PDF. Just head over to the IELTS Daily website. You will find that at IELTSdaily.com. I'll post that in the comments section, in the description below, and I hope to see you all there. If you liked this video, please, the easiest thing that you can do is just give the video a like on the video. Give it a thumbs up. For now, I'm Chris from IELTS Daily, and I hope that you have a great day. Go and do some hard work and preparation for your test coming up soon, and let us know how you get on. Take care.